dressed in blue, apart from the ones that are dressed in green. Why green? Because they're bird and sharpshooters. Burdett decided that he wanted his soldiers to be armed with sharp rifles, very accurate rifles. He wanted them also to wear a rudimentary camouflage. He wanted the Dunlop Rubberized Company to rubberize all of their brass buttons so they're black, so they didn't shine. And essentially, they were called sharpshooters. They're not called snipers, they're called sharpshooters. But apart from this splash of green, it's very obvious why these are the blue. The light blue trousers signifies that they are, in fact, conscripts. If they've got dark blue trousers on, which I believe the head sergeant has, then he would have been a regular. The Union Army was very well equipped. To start with, it was a very small force. Both armies were. The other one came out of militia that was designed to keep internal security from possible rebellions that this side might have been trying to start. In fact, there was a couple of gentlemen from the north that actually did try and start a couple of rebellions. So the Union started with a mixed bag of uniforms. You can see that there's some frock coats. The gentleman standing by the back of the stage has a frock coat on that comes almost to his knees. There's a New York State militia jacket. The gentleman with the brown hat and the other coat has got off. But actually what happened is these fighting uniforms began to be put aside because the Union troops were issued a sack coat, a simple 4-button sack coat, which was designed for them to do fatigues in, which was designed for them to do general work in. And they were issued as a forage camp. Basically, they sent their nice uniforms home and just lived in the 4-button sack coats. And of course, the Union Army could expect all sorts of useful things like ammunition, like food, like getting paid. These are things that are quite helpful if you're trying to persuade a soldier to fight a war. So that's the blue. Then we come to the grey, and it's very obvious that most of them aren't exactly grey. There's a reason for this. The grey uniform is the Union cadet uniform. It was the only option they had at the beginning of the war. However, the Union cadets were still dressed in grey as well. Some of these guys were regulars who went across who were still dressed in blue. There's a lot of carnage over this. So what they did is they designed their own uniform. They didn't have copious supplies of wool like the North did, so they made a material that was half wool, half cotton. It's called jean cloth. And they dyed it a lovely dark brown. Very sensible choice. Let's have a brown uniform. It won't be seen against the woodlands. But it was all homemade dyeing. None of it was industrial processes. And it faded to this colour that we now know as butternut. But we don't really want to call it the war between the blue and the butternut because it doesn't sound as good as the burley grey, does it? It was further complicated by the fact that each state, don't forget the South had ceded to avoid national control. So when Jefferson Davis said this is what we're going to do, some states said no, we want our own uniform. There was some talent flying out. Some states said we've already got our own uniform, we're not giving you any. So actually it was very difficult to standardise even when they did try.
Forward! March!
Also, when conscription happened, certain states refused to do conscription because it would be unpopular, and Jefferson Davis was left with saying, I wish I had the power that Lincoln did. These jackets that they wear are called Richmond jackets. You can see that early ones have lapels on, they have marks on, and they have what's called banding in them. Late ones, it's all gone. Completely all gone. There's no belt hooks, there's no lapels. It's just a very, very plain jacket. The gentleman here who's given the orders has got one on. Very, very simple. And they've actually got shorter as well to save material. Now I mentioned the fact that you saw the Napoleonics doing something very similar, and this is exactly what I was talking about when I said nobody got the memo. They started off the war fighting this Napoleonic War with these weapons. And of course, these new weapons had 5 times the range that the old weapons did. And the results were fairly catastrophic. If you marched up to a group of guys, they didn't wait for you to get to 50 yards, they started killing you at 500. Now the weapons that are actually, I'll tell you a little bit about them. The most common single model is the Pattern 58 Enfield, made in England. And it's a 5.77 rifle, firing a soft red ball, and it's been paired up with 2 Springfield rifles, the 61 and the 63. They're 58 caliber, but it's soft lead ammunition, it doesn't make that much difference. And there's 700,000 of them, making a total of 1.4 million. Now the problem with this old-fashioned way of doing things is, if you had defenders, like in the trench, it doesn't work very well if you walk up and fire a volley, because they all just stick their heads down, wait for you to fire at them, stick their heads up and shoot you. So, firing by file. Oh, they're going forward. I thought they were going to fire by file, but the major changed his mind. Something else. Now we've had to shorten the ranges that they would have had this engagement at considerably to make this work, because this would have been about 4 times the ranges that were actually happening at, and that way it doesn't work for you guys, you can't see everything. You know what I said about the various states having different issues? The unit on the right there, they've got English issue blue trousers. Not grey, not brown, but English issue blue trousers. And they've got steel grey, or steel blue, commutation jackets as well. I don't know if you can see the smoke ring above the arena there, that's quite fantastic. But that should give you an indication of the sheer volume of air that that cannon shifted. Even, that's perfect actually, that's a photo, isn't it? There. But that, wow. That should give you an indication that even though we're not actually putting cannonballs down these days, these are real black powder weapons, fighting real black powder, and you can actually get hurt if you stand in front of these. So there's very strict rules to do with these. They're firing by rank over here. That way they are firing every 10 seconds-ish rather than once every 20 seconds. There's a better way of doing it called firing by file, which is where you all take it in turns to fire. They're doing classic volleys. Those are very good volleys actually. If you have a volley that's fired and it sounds like one musket firing, that's a really, really good volley. The Union one sounds like a bit like da-da-da-da-da, but the one that was fired here was really good. If you do hear a really good volley, by the way, give them a round of applause because it's quite hard to do. The worst thing about this was these were 58 caliber or 58 caliber musket balls, mini bullets, soft lead. So when they hit the human body, they do terrible things. They're not like a jacketed bullet. They begin to frangulate. They squash, they pop open. If they hit you in an arm or a leg, they just tear it off. There's nothing left. If they hit you in anywhere else, it's not looking good. Medics at the time, I mentioned this in the Napoleonics, where Florence Nightingale came across. This is you ladies that done this. Well, during this war, Art Bickersdyke began to clean up the act. Because this war, 2/3 of the casualties were from diseases and bad medical attention. And the Christian Commission and the Sanitary Commission led the way in reducing that. That, ladies and gentlemen, was canister. So what happened there was the cannon was loaded with effectively a big tin of musket balls, turned it into a massive shotgun. But that weapon was used as final defensive fire. But the ladies changed everything. They began to cut the casualties down, and also medical assistance began to become something. Clara Barton established the American Red Cross. And most importantly, and I mentioned this earlier, the neutrality of medics. So doctors were considered neutral. field hospitals were just field hospitals. At the beginning of the war, the Confederates had some astounding victories, and they were actually going for a shock and awe victory. It didn't quite happen, but they were. They had 4 million people to draw from because there was 9 million people in the South. Sorry, 5 million. 4 million of them, however, were slaves, which left 5 million. Slave owners, if you owned more than 20 slaves, didn't have to fight. And some states said, we're not doing conscription anyway. Okay, jump over to the north. In the north, they began conscription. They had 21 million to draw from. If you were rich, however, you could pay a substitute. So the rich man's war, poor man's fight came about.